Thanks so much for being with us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm Joy Lim Nakra, and off the top, I want to get you right to some breaking news just into our newsroom moments ago, which is that the Georgia Court of Appeals has agreed to review the decision by a lower court judge, Judge Scott McAfee, to allow Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to remain as the lead prosecutor on the case against former President Trump and his allies. So obviously this is major breaking news that we're going to continue to follow throughout the day here on Atlanta News First Plus. Let me just show you a little bit of video here and just kind of give you a little bit of background. So the Court of Appeals has just made this decision to simply review a decision. So at this point, they're just saying we're going to hear what is this case all about and review it on the merits. But if you recall, the Fulton County Superior Court Judge, Scott McAfee, declined to disqualify Ms. Willis, District Attorney Fani Willis, and her office from the election interference case, this massive RICO case that we have been following against former President Trump and his allies, his co-defendants now, we could say. And this largely stems from the now admitted relationship that Ms. Willis had with the former special prosecutor, Nathan Wade, who has since stepped down from the case because that was one of the conditions for Ms. Willis to remain on the case, is that, you know, Mr. Wade would not be allowed to continue on, and he chose to resign rather than be fired. And so, you know, obviously there are a lot of developments here that are going to continue to unfold. But Steve Sadow, who is Mr. Trump's lawyer in the Fulton County case, and remember, he's got 4 different criminal cases going on, and Mr. Sadow is his attorney for the Fulton County case. But he said on social media that the court granted Mr. Trump's appeal of Judge McAfee's decision. And you know, there's still a lot to unpack here. What does this really mean? What do we think that the Court of Appeals is actually going to decide? I mean, that's a long way off, and that's something that we're going to continue to follow. But, you know, we have regular legal analysts joining us here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. So we're going to break this down. We'll get you all the latest, and stay tuned for much more, especially later on today. Meanwhile, I want to get you to some other news that we are following as well, and unfortunately have to report to you a really horrific discovery in a Gwinnett County Park. 4 people were found dead overnight, and 3 of them were children. It happened inside Lucky Shoals Park in Tucker. Gwinnett police say that the kids range in age from elementary school to middle school. There were 2 girls, 1 boy, and there was also an adult man who was found. Well, this is being investigated as a possible murder-suicide. Gwinnett police tell us it was an officer who actually found them. That officer was just doing a routine check of the park overnight, and they were discovered inside of a car around 1 a.m. Officials say, again, it's Lucky Shoals Park off of Bridge Road in Tucker. Again, it's 3 young children, 1 adult. We're told the car was parked on a walking trail inside the park. Detectives from Homicide and Crime Scene Unit have been on the scene throughout the day. They have been investigating. Let's take a listen to what they have to say.
When we go to scenes like this, we're able to run a tag and get some possible identities on maybe who the registered owner is. However, we have to wait for the medical examiner's office to arrive and process their scene for their eventual autopsy and investigation. So until that happens, we're not able to go inside and start manipulating the bodies.
Yeah, so obviously the investigation is still very much underway. The relief for the public is, you know, investigators are saying there is no threat to the general public, that it is an isolated incident, it is a target incident. Nonetheless, it is absolutely tragic, and we'll keep following the investigation there. Okay, let's talk about what's happening at Morehouse today. More protests, yet another college campus. So students at Morehouse College in Atlanta are joining the chorus of the student voices that we've heard across the country protesting the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. These students at Morehouse are specifically protesting President Joe Biden's upcoming visit and speech. Atlanta News First reporter Rebecca Schramm has more.
The protest is scheduled for just a couple of hours from now here at the edge of Morehouse's campus. The students are upset because President Biden is scheduled to deliver the commencement address later this month. We've learned that Morehouse sent the invitation to President Biden before the war in Gaza. He announced a couple of weeks ago that he's coming. We started hearing rumblings almost immediately that some Morehouse students and alumni were upset, not just with Biden's support of Israel, but some Some also felt that Biden is using Morehouse as a prop to try to boost his sagging poll numbers among black male voters. We recently spoke with an attorney who works for the Council on American Islamic Relations. That's a Muslim civil rights organization. Edward Ahmed Mitchell also happens to be a 2009 graduate of Morehouse. He thinks Biden is on the wrong side of the Israel-Hamas conflict.
We learned at Morehouse the importance of speaking up against injustice. The timing is bad. I mean, it would almost be like inviting Lyndon Johnson to come and speak at Morehouse at the height of the Vietnam War.
We will monitor the 10 a.m. protest here at Morehouse, and we'll bring you updates as they happen. In Atlanta, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
Thanks so much to Rebecca for that report. Okay, so I have some positive traffic news to report to you, which is kind of a rare thing here in Metro Atlanta, but a lot of relief coming for drivers in Alpharetta as Kimball Bridge Road over Georgia 400 is expected to reopen today. Thank goodness. I hit that on my commute. Atlanta News First Asia Wilson has a look at how things are going to be pretty different in that area.
You're exactly right. We're a little ways down from that bridge as barricades and equipment is still out here right now, but everything is expected to be gone by midday. That's because everything out here is all new and improved, and it will benefit not only drivers but walkers and bikers. Kimball Bridge Road over Georgia 400 was closed a year ago to the date. It has been under construction as part of a Georgia 400 bridge replacement project to expand for future express lanes. Now, this bridge is one of three that was previously 50 years old and at the end of life. Now, you will see a newly rebuilt bridge here on Kimball Bridge Road. It will be taller and will have wider structures. You will also see 2 extra lanes, a multi-use path, and new sidewalks. Now, while we're told the nearby Roberts Drive and Pitts Road bridges will remain closed for construction, officials say today's opening of the Kimball Bridge Road Bridge is a huge milestone. And according to Georgia Department of Transportation, ATL, this bridge will reopen sometime by noon. In Alpharetta, Asia Wilson, Atlanta News First.
Thanks so much to Asia for that report. All right, I want to bring in First Alert meteorologist Courtney Jacobazzi, and we love you, Courtney, but I don't think we're going to love everything that we're going to hear from you.
That's right. No, quite a stormy stretch of weather over the next really 30 hours. So get ready for several First Alert weather days, one First Alert weather day, but several rounds of storms that will really start this afternoon and then continue as we head into Thursday. So get ready for it. We're going to get you ready for it. I'm going to give you everything you need to know as we make our way through the day today and then ultimately into the overnight hours and through tomorrow. Several waves of showers and storms. And I want to say off the bat, and I'll go into a little more detail on this in just a couple of minutes here, these particular types of storm systems that are going to roll in, they're really difficult to forecast. In fact, models all morning have been going back and forth on the exact timing of it, how exactly it's going to hold together as it moves through the area. We call them mesoscale convective systems. Yeah, it's a big word, but essentially mesoscale means very small, and when models are trying to predict these smaller scale features like this, they can really struggle because it's almost like reading the fine print without your glasses, right? So we're going to keep an eye on this and kind of watch the progression and see how the models continue to handle this through the day. The good thing is we still have some rain out to our west in Alabama, and then those storms that are firing up in Tennessee, bringing severe weather to parts of Tennessee. We've had a couple of tornado warnings this morning, now just severe thunderstorm warnings, but we're going to watch how models handle kind of the progression of that, and that gives us an idea, okay, which one is doing the best, how well is this being handled, and then that gives us a better idea of how we can prepare you. But right now, severe storms ongoing in Tennessee, and that will continue. That little batch of storms will continue to push south through the day. The greatest severe threat is in Tennessee, but for us here in North Georgia, we do have a level 1 threat for the city of Atlanta and Metro, and then for the mountains in our northern suburbs under that level 2 threat. So that means scattered severe storms are possible. That green color means isolated severe storms are possible. So the greater threat for the mountains. And I want to let you know that this is for today and tonight, and this technically does go into tomorrow morning. It's a little confusing. The day one outlook from the Storm Prediction Center technically goes from 7 o'clock this morning into 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So quite broad 24 hours, but this technically does include tomorrow morning, which you will notice as I take you through the models that the overnight hours is really when we're going to watch the mountains. So that's why they're under that level 2 threat. And then that level 2 threat shifts to metro Atlanta and points south and really encompasses most of the state tomorrow. And this will be for a secondary batch of storms that moves in mainly after 10 o'clock and then will continue into tomorrow morning. So I'm going to put this full for you here so that we do have, so you can kind of see what exactly is going on. But a level 2 threat again means scattered severe storms are likely for the day tomorrow. And we will be, again, watching for all modes of severe weather. I didn't mention that yet. We'll be watching for all modes of severe weather. That will be in the forecast as we make our way into tomorrow. I'm going to set something up here really quick. And then we'll continue on. So yeah, we will be watching for all modes of severe weather. The biggest threat, the most widespread threat, is going to be the potential for damaging wind. I think most of us are going to see that as we head into tomorrow. So that's what we're really going to be watching for more than anything, is that potential for, again, damaging straight line wind. And when you pair that with heavy rain, because heavy downpour is also going to be likely, that could take down trees and power lines. So that's something we'll be looking for. And not necessarily looking at a big flooding threat here. Now, some small hail. Haven't had that in a while. In the summertime storms, we have so much fuel in the atmosphere that allows the particles to stay suspended in those thunderstorm clouds longer, which essentially allows them to ice over as they kind of drop and then relift with all that instability. That creates hail. So hail is also a threat. And then, of course, that tornado threat also there as well. We're going a moderate threat for tornadoes and for hail tomorrow. Don't necessarily think it's super low. And the timing on that going to be between really 10 o'clock or so into about 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Now, I will say we could have a few discrete cells, and as I take you through First Alert Futurecast here, you'll see what I'm talking about. And those little discrete cells, I call them the tiny but mighty cells, because essentially they're these small cells that do a really good job of strengthening up and taking advantage of everything the atmosphere has to offer. And what the atmosphere has to offer this afternoon and evening is very high fuel and instability, and also high wind shear, which is that changing of wind direction and speed with height, which is that ingredient you need for tornadic cells. So let's take you through. As we head towards 1 o'clock, we have the humidity out there. And so pair the heat and humidity together, and those storms start to kind of bubble up very summer-like this afternoon. So we'll watch for a few isolated storms this afternoon. Could carry heavy rain, gusty wind, and frequent lightning. As we head towards the evening hours, so for your evening commute, after 5 o'clock, we'll be watching for a few of those discrete cells. You look at the top of the banner there, you see that line, that more organized line of storms. That's going to continue to drop south, and that'll knock at our door overnight. But what we'll watch for before sunset and just after sunset is the potential for these little discrete cells to fire up. Notice up towards LJ, that's what we'll be watching to maybe spin, because at this point, we have the wind shear, we still have the fuel from the heat of the day. And so we'll watch for those discrete cells to potentially spark severe tonight with all modes of severe weather possible. When I say all modes of severe weather, we're talking damaging wind, hail, and that potential for an isolated tornado. Now, here comes that line. This is the high-resolution model, the high-res model. And this always looks the most aggressive. So it's going to look really ominous and scary. But essentially what you need to know is that this line is going to hold together pretty well as it moves in overnight, starting in the mountains. So our far northern counties, from Fannin County all the way over into Towns, Union, Raven County. And as we make our way towards 1 o'clock, that will shift south. Now, you notice the resolution on this model changed. That high-res model only goes out so far. So now we're going to switch to one that will go out further to kind of pan out the rest of the morning for you. As we make our way towards 3 o'clock in the morning, that line weakens. So it's going to enter the far North Georgia and the North Georgia mountains with the most punch. And that's where I think we're going to see the greatest threat for severe weather overnight. Again, if you're north of Atlanta and we're watching, or you're north of Atlanta this evening between around 6 and 9 o'clock, that's where we're going to look. That's kind of our generalized overview of a spot. It's hard to pinpoint where those little discrete cells are going to fire up, but it does look like north of Atlanta will be the best bet for any of those discrete cells to fire up before the overnight. But come the overnight hours, we'll really be watching the mountains for that line of storms that moves in and then essentially weakens as it makes its way into North Georgia, or into Atlanta rather. And then as we head towards 10 o'clock, a secondary line of storms develops. That's going to push south of the city by around 2, 3 o'clock, and then our severe threat comes to an end. So Kind of giving you a general overview. If you live north of the city, we'll watch for some discrete cells between around 6 and 9. If you live in the mountains and our northern suburbs, after midnight, a line of storms will move through. You'll be the hot spot for the potential for severe storms. Scattered severe storms with all modes of severe weather possible. A few showers will be possible for your morning commute tomorrow, but then between around 10 and 2, another line develops that will impact the city of Atlanta, and then that threat will shift south of I-20 as we make our way past lunchtime tomorrow, where again we'll be watching for damaging straight line wind, the potential for some hail, maybe a brief tornado as well. That will all be possible, a few tornadoes in fact possible. This system, again, the same system that impacted Oklahoma a couple days ago, impacted the Great Lakes region yesterday, and then impacting Tennessee right now. So it has a history of severe weather, and not that that necessarily means anything for us, but watching this storm system progress and just continue to cause really just spouts of severe weather, and our environment is primed for it. More than likely, that's going to tell the tale of what's going to happen here, that at least we're going to get those damaging straight line winds, which are dangerous within itself, could knock down trees and power lines. So I actually want to take you through this one more time. Let's take you through First Alert Futurecast because I just think it's important. And I want to let you know, again, models have been struggling with this, so the timing on this could change as we head through the next couple of hours. So you really want to stay tuned to the forecast, both on the First Alert Weather app and on air as we continue to update you. So again, pop-up storms for the afternoon could carry heavy rain, gusty wind, frequent lightning. After 6 o'clock, we're watching for discrete cells, mainly north of Atlanta, that could spark severe, with that potential also for a tornado. Come the overnight hours, 12 o'clock and beyond, the mountains are the main focus point for the potential for scattered severe storms. And as that line shifts south through the overnight hours, it kind of weakens, but still brings a chance for rain and storms mainly north of Atlanta. And then 10 o'clock and beyond, we'll look from Atlanta point south as a secondary line of storms develops and keeps that chance for severe weather in the forecast. Now, all of this is out ahead of a cold front. That front will move in on Friday, keep the chance for a few scattered showers, maybe a rumble of thunder Friday morning. And then as we head into Friday afternoon and evening, we dry out. Drier air moves in, colder air moves in just in time for Mother's Day weekend. So if you have any plans outside, you're good to go. It is in fact going to be beautiful. I encourage you to be outdoors this weekend. Notice after a really kind of like sticky summer-like feel the next couple of days, in the past couple of days, that humidity drops off over the weekend before it kind of starts to ramp back up next week as we watch for some more weather systems. The weekend forecast just looks great though. Highs in the 70s, overnight lows, so you'll wake up in the morning to the 50s. It'll just be really, really comfortable. So we have to get through kind of a stormy stretch of weather starting tonight into tomorrow, and then we're, sitting pretty as we head into the weekend. Here's a look at that First Alert 7-day forecast. So today, a few strong storms possible. We'll watch for storms to pop after lunchtime, but after 6 o'clock, we'll really be kind of on the lookout for that potential for severe storms, especially north of Atlanta. Overnight, that line of storms moves through. That's the reason for our First Alert Weather Day Thursday, because it does look like we'll have multiple rounds of storms starting overnight Thursday and then another late morning into the early afternoon, with temperatures still in the low 80s. A few morning showers possible Friday, and then we cool off through the afternoon. We'll kind of cool, that cooler air will be spilling in through the afternoon, so that'll keep highs in the upper 70s, waking up in the 50s, some cool and crisp mornings over the weekend, highs in the mid to upper 70s, and then we'll stay in the 70s Monday with a few showers possible Monday night. That'll all be ahead of our next weather system that seems to roll in by next Tuesday. All right, everyone, be sure again to stay tuned to the forecast, both on air, online. The First Alert Weather app will constantly be sending out push notifications to you with forecast updates throughout the day. It'll be a great tool to have as we wait for severe weather. In fact, First Alert Weather app will give you severe weather alerts to your phone. Just be sure to go to the settings and turn those notifications on so you can be weather ready as we prepare for that potential for severe weather starting this evening and continuing into tomorrow. Make it a great day, guys.